Hello and welcome to week 5 of Star Wars: Old Republic for 7.0. In this week's video, we're going to be going over a few things. We're going to do our usual going over the varied featured content to tell you what stuff's up, which stuff's actually worth doing. We're going to be talking about how you're going to be getting sets of armor for all of your alts and some of the best ways to farm up that additional gear to spread across your characters. And importantly, we're going to be talking about some of the cool changes that are going to come with 7.0.1, as I have listened to some of our complaints and they are making changes to a few things that I think are really awesome, and I'd love to see them make even more changes than they've announced, but all we've got so far is what they've told us they're changing. So let's get right into the video. Alright, so let's start off this video by talking about things that you want to get for gear to create sets for all of your different alts. I'm going to assume right now that you're already at item rating 326, and if you're not, you can definitely combine the information from all of the previous videos I've done and stretch that out to fit whatever item rating you're currently at. I've gotten myself to 326 and I've started farming a lot of additional gear at 326 to be able to make sets for alts. So Breakfast Cougar has available combat styles for doing a Shadow, which I mainly use for tanking, and a Sorcerer, which I mainly use for playing Madness. What I've done is I've finally been able to farm up enough gear that I don't need to use this tanking set that I store in this legacy bay. So this is my main tanking set that I created. Now, I also have a full blue 326 set with augments. The only thing it's missing is the legendary implants. I could buy green ones from the Conquest Path for a tank and I could upgrade them. I can still go into my legacy bank and pull out these two legendaries whenever I do want to actually use them. So what I've done is I've created a loadout here for when I don't have the legendaries on me, allows me to put them back in my legacy bank for someone else to use. And then I've got my regular ones where if I pull these legendaries out in my inventory, they would automatically get applied when I pick one of these two loadouts. If you're going to farm anything that gives you gear, such as group content, you really want to make sure that you're wearing at least the 320s, preferably the best gear you have. The other thing is I do have a DPS set which I still need to pull out for this character. I have not been able to create a separate DPS set for this character, plus I don't DPS with them often enough to make worth giving their own set. When it comes to actually getting these additional sets for my character, what is my progress? What does it look like? Well, as you can see, here's my primary tanking set in one legacy bay. Here is my primary DPS set in another legacy bay. Here's all of the Conquest 326 additional sets. So I almost have enough to make a full set for a DPS. Now here's where I've started collecting all of my blue 326 gear, or potentially some purple gear, to make sure that I can make those better sets for characters who actually want to have better, because blue is better than green and purple is better than blue. As you can see, not quite as well fleshed out yet on the DPS gear for the blues, and I don't have much tank gear left for the blues because I've been using it to create alt sets. I've got 3 tank sets that are almost 100% complete. Alright, so now I've given you an example of what it looks like to have gear that's dedicated to a character versus having the gear in my legacy bank, and showing you how much gear I've been stockpiling and trying to make these sets for all my alts. So let's talk a little bit about how you're actually going to be farming up these additional sets. So there's a few different things you can do. When we were focused on getting to 326, one of our main goals was being able to get the upgrade currency, being able to get upgrade chests, and keep working our item rating up. Now that we're at that item rating, our main focus is going to be getting additional gear as quickly as possible. The weeklies still help you a little bit with getting additional gear, but they're not as important as before. We can look at optimizing things for time in a different way because those upgrade crates aren't going to be as valuable as before. So we have a few different options in group content that will drop us blue gear. We can do master mode flashpoints. If you feel like you have the appropriate skill level, this is a great option. If you're going to do it through the activity finder, I would suggest only checking the easiest ones and ignoring the weekly completely, because it's a real big crapshoot to be in the activity finder and getting group members who aren't appropriately ready for master mode flashpoints, and the time efficiency just tanks. And getting that gear upgrade crate, just not worth it at that point. Better yet, if you can find a group of players, you want to go and farm really fast flashpoints. So I did test it out. Red Reaper, I was able to do it with 2 people. We both had 50 influence companions. We were both on stealthers. Red Reaper was a great way to farm up 3 sets every single time you complete that flashpoint. Hammer Station is still fairly easy. They have made it a bit harder than before. So if you're using companions, I really don't suggest Hammer Station. I'd rather do a Red Reaper, or Kadamimu is another great choice, although it does take longer to run through Kadamimu. So my suggestion with flashpoints is if you can find a group, definitely do that and go do ones that are fairly easy to complete. If you have companions, don't do Hammer Station. That's going to be a great way to farm all your gear for your additional sets. It doesn't matter if you're getting blue Supreme or blue Clumai gear, they're going to have the exact same stat. Operations is also a great way to break it up and get some additional gear. So yeah, if you have a group that can do operations, I would highly suggest doing those for fun. Hard mode EV isn't too bad. The downsides for operations are pretty obvious. You get the lockout, so you can't do them quite as often. You can't spam them as easily. You do have to find 8 players instead of just 2 players, or it's going to take you a lot longer. There is one thing to note about how the game works. You're only allowed 5 phase resets per hour. So if you're spamming flashpoints and you go into a flashpoint 5 times, and you manage to get that done in less than an hour, you won't be able to do any more phases. So one thing that you could do if you're really fast and you do have the players to be able to do it, is you could just throw an operation in there to mix it up to make sure that you don't hit that cap on the phase resets. If you are not focusing on getting that blue gear for all of your alts, well, there's a few different ways that you can do it as a player who isn't doing that content. Obviously, you can get those Noble Decurion crates. As long as you're wearing 326 gear, when you open those chests, you'll get more 326 gear. You can fill in the gaps and complement all the pieces you didn't get by just following the normal path of using your Aquatic Resource Matrix and your Metals of Accommodation to upgrade pieces from 320. Pretty simple. You can still do PvP to get additional sets of 326. You get the advantages of them being purple, which is really nice. You have the disadvantage of them not having as much accuracy on them. So for DPS, this is going to be a bit of an issue, that you'll have to complement some of those pieces with other pieces that actually do have accuracy. Otherwise, you're going to have a very hard time meeting your goal. PvP is not as enticing for making sets for your alts because we're not focused on the upgrade path, but it still is an okay way to make sets for your alts. Especially if you want purples, that's going to be nice because you do get that stat boost from purples having a little bit more power attached to them. Well, I hope that gives people a lot of ideas on how they can farm up sets of gear for their alts and some of the fastest ways to do them. Alright, let's get into the next part of the video and let's look at the featured content for this week, what I suggest farming, what I don't suggest farming. So this is going to be your Aquatic Resource Matrix farm, or if you're looking to get sets for your alts and you're not doing the group content path, this is also going to be your route to get these Noble Decurion distribution chests. Bel Savas, I've talked about Bel Savas, it's been up many different weeks. It's pretty good as a stealther, and on a non-stealther, going Imperial side is definitely going to be better, whereas on the Republic side, going as a non-stealther, there's a lot of enemies to kill and it really slows you down if you don't have a friend to come help you kill them. Hoth, not a big fan of Hoth, period, so I'm just not going to go and discuss that one. Terrace is one that's not great either. I find that the pub side Terrace is just a little bit better, and you can split it up across multiple days. Being a non-stealther is really going to rack up the time, and we're looking at like 8-10 minutes just to do those 3, whereas there's certain areas that you can finish in 10 minutes. Now when it comes to Tatooine, we're looking at some pretty good stuff. Tatooine on the Republic side is great. You definitely want to be doing this one. I want you to pick up Pirate Bullies, Breaking the Code, Down the Hold, Reap the Whirlwind, and a Jawa's Concern. If you're on a non-stealther, this can be a troublesome planet, and it's definitely not as time efficient. A Jawa's Concern can potentially take you a very long time, so instead you should be taking a long goodbye. So when we look at what we're going to do on the Imperial side for Tatooine, this is still a good one to do, but I wouldn't suggest finishing it in a single day. Prison Labor, Black Box, Jawa Trade, War on Spice, Call Down the Thunder. All of these are quite good and they're quite fast to do whether you're on a stealther or not. Let's show people Black Hole on the Republic side. You want to be on a stealther if at all possible. You can switch combat styles while in an instance, so you can definitely do it on someone like a DPS class and switch back and forth. As you go outside, you turn left, you pick up the droid, and there's a nice little area to farm here. This area is going to be farmed pretty often because it is so nice. There's a few of the enemies you need to kill. There are a few of the clickable crates that you want to harvest. As you can see, that one just popped right now to be available. If it's full, it's not a big deal. We've got 2 groups of enemies that we can kill here. If this previous area was completely open to you, you can kill these 2 groups of enemies, and then you can drop down. So I'm right here, I came out, did the corner, I can kill these 2 enemies here, and I can drop down into the middle, in the bottom there, to kill another group of enemies, which will trigger enough enemies to start destroying the additional crates. Now, if you did miss out on some enemies, you can come down this way instead, and I can kill this group here. I can kill the group off to the left, which has more clickables, and I can kill the group down here, which also has the weapons container, which will be unlocked once you kill enough people. There is another weapons container you can kill down here. If you were able to do everything in the corner, you can kill a couple enemies and then drop down into the middle using the rubble over here. And then kill this group of enemy just to get your kill count high enough for the weapons container. And from here, we're simply just going to be walking back up this way. The reason why we want to walk back up this way is, well, there's a few things. There's weapon containers you can destroy over here. There's more enemies that you can kill if you still need some more enemies. And you're going to unlock the bonus to be able to click a console right here, call down the guy for a mission and kill him. If that console is destroyed and not clickable once you've unlocked that part of the mission, you can simply just go into Eyes and Ears and finish this off. The thing about Eyes and Ears to note is it does not work in a group. You have to quit the group and do it individually, rather annoying, and then you can regroup up when you come back outside, click the console here, kill the guy who spawns. From here, we're going to be cutting straight across at a kind of diagonal, and once you get to Forced Labor, you can skip this group of ads that's up there if you hug close enough to the corner of the wall. unlike what I just did. And from here you can go either left to right, but we're gonna go save Bob now. Bob's my favorite. He's over here. This is Bob, that's Sam. You save Bob, and you say fuck you to Sam. Because Sam betrayed us to the Empire.
Not even a challenge.
I kid you not. Once we are back outside, we're going to head straight out the door and we're going to drop down the cliff here. And you just need to kill a group of Torviks and enemies that drop the anti-rad injector for the next part of the mission. Chasing the shadows is one that you definitely want to be a stealther if possible, or at least be in a group. So one of the huge advantages with using multiple combat styles is I can use my stealth character to get into position of the guy that I actually need to kill. And then I can just go in here, and since I'm not in a flashpoint or an operation, I can change to any combat style I want, and I can load up my DPS class so that I can actually kill this guy a lot faster than on my stealth tank. And now that everything's dead, we can just simply swap back to our stealth class and keep running as a stealther. My easy way of farming Black Hole generally takes me less than 10 minutes to finish the whole daily area on a stealth character. Now let's go and load up our Imperial character. Alright, so we're on Imperial side, and the first thing that you're going to want to do is wander around the base and clicking your little icon for your mission, scanning enemies. Pretty simple here. The one thing to note though is sometimes it can be very annoying and take a long time to find the enemy that's actually there, because when other players are in here and doing the same thing, they can actually tag enemies and it takes a while for them to reset. So yeah, just wander around until you get it done. Very easy for me that time, I got it super quick. You can check out this room over here, as well as there's a couple of groups that are up top that you can look at as well. So there are a couple different ways we can think about how we want to do Black Hole on the Imperial side. The thing to note is that when you're killing the Torvik forces, you need to kill so many people and then it progresses to the next part where you can destroy crates. So generally what I like to do is I like to run all the way up to kind of this northern area here, killing a bunch of enemies along the way, and then head over to Hypermatter Directive and complete that while killing enemies. Don't forget about the two groups that are up in this area as well. They can be a lot of additional kills that really help you make that progress. I got lucky enough here getting enough kills that I did pop being able to destroy the crates right away. One of the great little areas that I want to point out as well is there is an additional crate right here as well as some additional enemies to kill. So make sure you check that both when you're coming into and when you're leaving this objective. As with the Republic side, you're also going to find that this one does not work very well if you're in a group. So make sure you drop group before going in to do this mission. So once we're done in here, we're actually going to run straight across back to our Torviks one. You can keep an eye out to see if the crate has been clickable there. It's been destroyed recently, so no waiting around. Same thing with this crate has been destroyed recently. As you can see, there is a crate over to my left here, so we'll want to make sure that we do grab any that are available. As I mentioned before, it's very helpful to have a stealther on you, and well, you can just swap to your loadouts, and you can even think it doesn't really matter if I have the gear on me or not. So just a quick note about the puzzle in the Torviks area here, it's going to be the exact same combination every single time, so if you just memorize from left to right that you want to go 1, 3, 2. From here, we're going to actually quick travel back to the starting area. So we're going to take a right turn immediately out as we head down towards the last missions that are available for us. There's going to be a bonus that unlocks when we finish clicking all of these crates, as well as the one that's inside of an instance. And as you can see, I'm going to be one crate short after doing this loop, so I won't be able to start the bonus that is right beside me over here yet. So I'm going to have to go and hunt for another crate, and I can get in on killing this guy maybe without having to actually have to click the console, because shared tagging is sometimes really great like that. And it popped! That was amazing. Didn't have to wait around to click the button. I hope you guys enjoyed my little route for doing Black Hole on the Imperial side. Again, just to recap, you're going to come out of the outpost. We're going to make kind of this diagonal path up, killing a bunch of enemies as we go up. And then as soon as the crates become clickable, we're going to destroy them as we're heading east from there. We're going to go inside of our phase, do our little mission, make sure you're not in a group, going to come back out, check for crates as you wander back across doing the Torviks one, stealth through all of that. And then from there, you're going to quick travel back to the base and just walk along the south border, finding the rest of the crates to pop the bonus and then finish off with glow. Alright, so let's take a quick look at what else we have for daily areas. Well, we have Yavin 4. That's a reasonable daily area. It's kind of in the middle. It takes a little bit longer than the other two. It's not the optimal one that I would suggest farming, as it does take a little bit longer. But again, it's definitely one that if you want to do it, go right ahead and do it, just knowing that it takes a little bit longer. Onderon is great. I highlighted Onderon last week, and so if you're not sure the fastest way to do Onderon, go check out my video from last week. This is also a really good place to go because you get 100 tech frags every time you finish it. Now let's take a look at what's available on the Master Mode Flashpoint queue. So this week, the Master Mode Flashpoint queue is definitely a lot harder than last week, so you're going to find that you're going to struggle a bit more if you're not with a good group of players. Depths of Manon can be a little bit on the tricky side. You do need to have reasonable DPS, and you need to have a tank who knows what he's doing. Legacy of Rakata, I don't think this one's too hard. Should be reasonably good. Based on my previous testing of Korriban Incursion and Assault on Tython, there are some pretty high DPS checks in this fight, so you'll definitely want to have a reasonable team to hop into these ones. Maelstrom Prism, this one has always troubled people if they don't know how to do the mechanics properly and can give a lot of people grief. Otherwise though, it's not super hard. The DPS checks aren't too bad. It's just knowing how to do those mechanics to avoid getting one shot by different boss mechanics. Toral 5, easy. This one will be a nice easy one if you get it. Secrets of the Enclave, I don't think this one's super hard, but it's definitely a little bit more challenging. It is one of the newer ones. It takes a lot longer to get through. And Runes and All, this one is going to be up every week, and we just have to worry about the glitches and bugs that instant kill you, which make it the hard. Otherwise, it's really not that hard once you remove the bugs from the mission. For the operations, we're back to the starting rotation there. We're going to be seeing Eternity Vault, which is absolutely easy on story and veteran mode, so it's a great way to farm up some additional gear while popping a weekly. Explosive Conflict, this one's very easy to do on story mode, and it's reasonable to do on veteran mode, although players do have to have a better idea of what they're doing, and there are some checks in this that make it harder for inexperienced groups to clear it. Gods from the Machine on Master Mode, I don't know who's going to be completing this one. I'll be very impressed if anybody does this week. And we're going to have Terror from Beyond, which Terror from Beyond is a little bit of a challenging one as well on veteran mode. It's quite easy on story. Veteran mode, I would say this one's probably going to be a little bit easier to complete than doing EC, but at the same time that final boss might be very challenging for groups as it does require DPS to not be complete tools and make sure they're DPSing the right stuff in the right order. Otherwise, you just create a mess of a last fight. That's the main featured content for the week, so hopefully that gives you guys some great ideas on stuff you want to be doing, how you want to be farming stuff, and especially how you want to look at getting gear for all of your alt characters. Let's talk about the changes that are coming with 7.0.1. Alright, so 7.0.1, the few main points that I want to go over for you guys are going to be what changes are coming with the gear, what changes are coming with the UI, and how they're changing the actual missions and what's available for us to do. So gear changes in 7.0.1 should launch March 22nd, might be delayed, so it should be a week from now, we'll see. All stats are going to be equal. So right now you might have noticed that certain gear, especially gear with critical stats, might have less total points than other gear. That's a bit of a bug. They're going to be fixing it. So all gear will have the same stats when it's the same item rating, same color, right, so on. So yeah, no longer having to worry about farming the exact right piece and getting the healers, cuffs, and this and that weird stuff that people are saying in the best of gear suggestions. Upgrades will also be easier to understand. They're not going to be giving you plus mastery and minus crit. That was really confusing. Mastery does give you additional power and crit. So they were doing this weird thing to balance out the fact that mastery is actually worth multiple different kind of stats at once by subtracting some crit. Yeah, really weird choice. Now it's just going to be straight up. You're seeing a power increase and you're seeing a crit increase and a minus to the endurance. Much easier to understand those upgrades. I love that change. The colors of legendary items are going to be fixed. I'm so glad they're doing this. I made a video on it. It was so frustrating to be like, why is this yellow thing not accuracy? So that's great. All class gear should also be fixed to have upgrades and to be obtainable. So right now people can't upgrade 320 Rakata gear, and certain classes such as the Vanguard just can't get an offhand and other stuff like that. So hopefully these are all fixed. They're supposed to be with this patch. The UI itself, they're going to make some nice changes to the UI. They're going to remove those bright borders around every square in your inventory space so that they're just not so distracting to people. They're also going to change how the ability tree selection works, and it's going to look a lot better. You're actually going to be able to clearly see what you've picked in the ability tree, making that a lot cleaner. I haven't fully looked into the PTS changes for the UI. I'm hoping there's a few other changes that are going to improve things. It's not going to be what everybody was looking for. Featured content is changing. This is a really big thing. I'm glad that they've listened to us and they're going to be scrapping this stupid idea of limiting what flashpoints you can do on Activity Finder. So now all of the flashpoints will go back to the system we were used to in the previous expansion. If you're level 80, everything will be available to you on the Flashpoint Activity Finder. And if you're below level 80, you will have flashpoints given to you depending on what level you're at, as all of the flashpoints will require the same kind of level caps they used to require before you can join them. They are going to be making changes on how the gearing is going to be done as a result for the flashpoints. They're going to slightly nerf the amount of stuff that we're getting from completing individual flashpoints, and they're going to increase some of the rewards we get from the weekly for activating everything on the Flashpoint Activity Finder, so you get a bit more rewarded and you have a little incentive to actually do the weekly rather than just saying, screw it, I'm going to pick the easiest one, aka Hammer Station or something, every single time. They're also going to be changing the daily areas and heroics. I'm so glad we're going to now have all the heroic weeklies available to us every week, so I can use it for quick travel to get around to planets, if no other reason. And all the daily areas are going to be available, so this is great. They are going to nerf it a little bit by saying you can only do the weekly mission 2 times per week instead of 3, so that hopefully you have more variety. But as it stood right now, with the amount of tunes I had, I didn't even have enough time to do every single one 3 times on characters, so yeah. Alright, thank you everybody for watching. I hope you really enjoyed this video, and I hope it's very helpful with figuring out what you want to do in Star Wars: The Old Republic. And as always, have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video.